Hello everyone and welcome to my video. I'm Lucarval and today I'm playing Yugioh Master Duel. And last time we finally finished Gift of the Material, and this time we'll continue with the secret powers of the planet. So, yeah, Aurum and his linked comrades, the Crusadia, are up against a new foe, the Orcust, who can be called back from the graveyard even after they are destroyed. One question remains: who is the mastermind behind these menacing machines? A new World Legacy battle is about to be unleashed. Okay, let's check it out. Also, by the... Okay, how much story is there about it? Yes. So, yeah, if you have any wishes, questions or feedback, just write it in the comments. Or get on the stream and right there I'll make sure to read and reply. But, yeah. Looks like this episode will be filled with lots of reading. I mean, that's crazy. There's more reading than actually duels, okay? So, let's start with it, I guess. The secret powers of the planet. A few years had passed since the nightmare of a tragedy. When Aurum awoke, he found that the girl and her brother were no longer with him. Was Ip gone, really gone now for good? The loss of the girl had its grip over Aurum's heart like an unbreakable vice. I couldn't protect Ip. If only I were stronger, then her death could have been avoided. The battle had left a chasm in Aurum's heart. Now that Ip was gone, Aurum had tasted for the first time just how terrifying a battle could be, and how devastating losing someone you treasured could be. He couldn't have the heart to go on with his journey, not for now. However, there was still one thing on his mind that bothered him. It was Ningirsu. Even now, Aurum still had no idea where he had gone. No doubt despair had taken him, now that his beloved sister was no more. And when Aurum thought about how Ningirsu must be feeling right now, his heart became fraught with an immovable weight. But that was exactly why Aurum had to go after his childhood friend. And so the swordsman resumed his journey with Imduk. It was when panic was beginning to settle in Aurum's mind. Was it coincidence? Or did the Mekhnite that dwelled within him lead him to it? He stumbled across a dormant corolla. It occurred to Aurum that this might lead to a clue. He could try and restore it and see if its communication system still worked. Story number 1 done. Crusader Maximus. Okay. Well, next. Aurum succeeded in restoring the crawler and gained access to its communications system, along with a number of records. The detailed areas in which the swamps were active, and data on the locations where many crawlers had been destroyed. Perhaps there was still some life left in those areas, and if there was, maybe they would know where Ningirsu had gone. Armed with his new clue, Aurum set off to the areas he had gleaned from the records. However, as useful as the information was, it unfortunately didn't make Aurum's expedition any easier. There was nary a sign of life to be spotted anywhere, and the journey was looking like it could end in vain. Nature, uncaring and unrelenting, continued to batter the two mercilessly. But at last, a glimmer of hope at the end of the artist's tunnel. Arm and Imdok had stumbled across the remaining tribes of the planet. That of the fiery recluses, the stalwart beasts, and the sacred lakeside trees. Although this encounter brought no clues as to Ningirsu's whereabouts, Orm and Imdok were blessed with the legends and knowledge of the tribes. And by linking them together, Orm was able to unlock a great secret power of the world and witnessed the tremendous power that slumbered in its depth. It made him think of the world-jealous powers that were bestowed to him. But this was greater, far greater, hiding unbeknownst to the dwellers of the planet. Was this what Lee had thought? Orm thought. Oh, that rhymes. Okay, we got that, and let's continue with the story. What were the more secrets dwelt beneath the surface? One of them was the rebirth records, inscribed with the history of the planet, chronicles from generations long forgotten. And the other, bygone memories of the planet's glorious age, where humans ruled from the apex. Long, long ago, there was a god who ruled the skies. With dragonkind as its disciples, it perpetuated the cycles of destruction and the rebirth to maintain the balance of the realms. However, the scale of the destructions grew bigger each time, and one day the balance of the two was thrown into great disarray. Once this delicate balance toppled, even the sacred skies could not hold back the destruction it wrought. The god decided that it could no longer oversee the skies by itself. With its powers of creation, it brought forth layers and layers of the toughest earth and sealed the powers of destruction within. With nowhere to go, the powers raged and raged until it boiled and scorched the very earth, morphing it. The torrent of power rushed through the land and merged with the powers of creation, leaking out onto the surface. It became a small manifestation of the cycle of death and rebirth, and gave life to the lands. With the last of its strength, the god then turned itself into a key, and entrusted it to the life blooming on the planet before vanishing. In the years following its disappearance, the powers of destruction re-emerged on the surface many times. However, every time it did, the life on the planet would use the key and, with the help of the dragonkind, push it back to whence it came. Over time, the key came to be known as word, and the power of destruction as the Great Darkness. Thus, the great legend of the world hero was born. Starlit hero, your sword swathed in light, may you triumph over the Great Darkness. Okay. And just continue. I feel like you're reading a book right now. Decades, centuries, maybe millennia passed since the beginnings of the rebirth records. The land was now populated with a life known as humanity. They were a civilization who had gained scientific knowledge and technological know-how, and were at the height of their prosperity. Their glory came at a cost, for it not only tore the planet's gifts away from it, but also the dragons who protected it. The god and the dragons that once were had faded into obscurity as mere tales. And it was during this time that the key was excavated and uncovered. The humans were accelerated by such a legendary and mystical find. Although its authenticity became gradually acknowledged, some expressed worries and doubts at the discovery. What did it mean for the key to have resurfaced in this time? Was this an omen, warning them of an inevitable battle between the world hero and the Great Darkness, like the legend said? Now that they could see that the key existed in its sword form, did this also not also mean that the powers of destruction were indeed sealed deep within the planet's crust? Humanity began to assemble their finest to analyze the key. Within the team that had formed, there was a scientist who has shown her talent in all fields of medicine, astronomy and archaeology. Her name was Lee. Oh god, not Lee. Lee was known all over the world as the foremost authority on computer science. The analysis was able to proceed smoothly thanks to her involvement, and not long after, the team branded itself as an organization called Crusadia, under the jurisdiction of the Confederation of Nations. Once they had analyzed the key further, they began to draft a plan that would help fight the imminent threats to their planet. It would involve various of a mechanical nature, and they called it Project Magnite. Work was to proceed without a moment's delay. Meanwhile, Lee drew up a hypothesis and sought to validate it in secret. She wanted to get to the root of the appearance of the Great Darkness that world hero legend spoke of. Recorded in the legend were multiple tales of the key being used to drive back the Great Darkness by harnessing the powers of creation and destruction. It was a simple enough story. The Great Darkness would appear, and the world hero would fight it back with the key. However, could the reverse also not be true? That using the key was the very thing that drew the Great Darkness out? There were those who were entrusted with a divine mission, and the conspirators who sought to revive the powers of destruction. The world hero legend was ultimately a story of their power struggle over the key. Whoever has the key will control the fate of the world. Or so went Lee's hypothesis anyway. And the more time she spent trying to validate it, the darker her ambitions grew. Of course. The divine powers will be mine. Yeah, and that again shows history repeats. And more story. A few years have now passed since Project Magnite began. And finally, Magnite of the Morning Star was complete. It had been fitted with a core powered by the key and possessed enough power to fight the most deadly of wars. However, an incident occurred. During its test run with none other than Lee as its test pilot. Yeah. With the key, she had reversed all of the celestial powers coursing through its mechanical body and diverted them to the planet's core, faster than anyone could make a move. Lee had planned all this out before taking her place as test pilot. The planet that had flowed into the planet's core split the lands, and once again the destruction from within overflowed the surface, scorching every bit of Earth that it touched. The entire world was beginning to split apart in this unprecedented disaster, and the revival of the Great Darkness drew ever nearer. However, its resurrection was now without its obstacles. It was not without its obstacles. The Crusader had created as assistive units 7 Magnites in total. The remaining Magnites faced off against Magnite of the Morning Star and destroyed it, sealing away the Great Darkness back within the Earth once more. But the Great Darkness was, at the end of the day, a divine force, one that the mortals failed to seal away completely. Inspired by the key, the team decided to put their powers into physical vessels of their own, and left them on the surface as legacies. Now that the lands were ruined, it was harder and harder to live in such conditions. It seemed that life on this planet would be gradually snuffed out, including humanity. The reason why the Master of the Key, the world hero, didn't appear in our time of need is because we humans drained the planet of its powers, thought the Crusader. They began to mobilize to put an end to humanity's so-called glory, as it was the largest obstacle to the revival of the barren lands and the planet's chances at surviving. They left the 7 Magnites they had built in their ruined world after they were programmed with instructions to help rekindle the planet. The Magnites were also installed with data of the Crusader members they had established a brain link with. If the lands could be healed once more and the planet could take back the power it once had, then perhaps they could avoid imminent disaster. The Crusader had left all their hopes to a faraway future they may not even reach. However, there was one thing they failed to realize. The mastermind behind this incident was Lee, and she had already been taken by the burning lands. When she was found, she was already dead. But only in flesh. Her soul had been released from its physical vessel, and she had transferred into worldly world chalice, her will and knowledge. Is this a loop? Okay. Interesting. Yeah, quick drink something before I continue reading. The tremendous power that dwelt within the planet was the very thing that Lee was after, thought Aram. Suddenly he was struck by a sense of terror. He could feel a great force of malice that threatened the planet, but from where he could not tell. Perhaps someone somewhere was beckoning to the darkness, trying to bring it forth. He had to stop them before another terrible disaster happened. And in that moment, in Aram's mind, the figure of Ningirsu appeared. The figure of his childhood friend, tormented with sadness from the loss of Ib, seeking darkness in his despair at the world. Although slight, he could feel Ningirsu's presence within the malice. It couldn't be. Aram reined his uneasy heart in. He would need to help to stop this malice. He asked the elders of each tribe to lend him their strength, and they answered his pleas with a great number of warriors and the tribes united in a formidable alliance. Okay. They named themselves after the warriors of old that their writings spoke of, and thus the second coming of the Crusader was born. The Crusader were taken to a hidden spot by the tribe of the Sacred Trees and activated World Legacy World Crown. Aram and his companions had now obtained power that could help them combat the malice that threatened their world. The Crusader began to advance towards the giant tower at the center of all the malice. The orchestrated Babel, towering into the sky in its metallic magnificence. Surrounding it were the Orchest, mechanical weapons waiting on standby in silent formations. At the tower's base was Ningirsu, and activating World Legacy World Wand was the only thing on his mind. Now that Aram could see his childhood friend, the swordsman could only think about how much sadder he looked. Aram prayed that he was only overthinking the situation, but he knew that their reality was not a kind one. Ningirsu was here because he wanted the powers of darkness, and he was at the center of the malice Aram had felt. That was the truth that awaited him at the end of his long search. But no matter how much time had passed, no matter how things had changed, the one thing that remained the same was that Ningirsu was still his friend. Aram thought about what he could do now that he was here. He had to stop Ningirsu from starting to a disaster that could mean the end of the world, of their world. The only one who can stop this villainy is me, Aram thought, gathering all his courage. He signaled for his companions to mobilize, and now a new battle was about to begin. You know what? I don't think it is. Yeah, we actually can't continue here, so we have to read more. Okay. Ningirsu's sorrow. When Ningirsu saw what had happened, a bolt of guilt pierced through his grief. Even in his desperation, he never imagined this would happen. His eyes could hardly believe what they were seeing. How did all this happen so fast? He prayed that he was dreaming, and that he was going to wake soon. All he wanted was to see his dear sister again. As the sense of another nightmare unfurled around him, he became embroiled in a storm of emotions. I need to save Ib. Even as his mind was numbed with stupor, Ningirsu's body began to move without command. In what looked like an impulsive choice, he struck his childhood friend unconscious, taking both the other man's sword and Ib. What good was this world if Ib was not in it? He would do anything, be it good or evil, if it meant that he could see her smile again. That single thought of getting his sister back was all Ningirsu needed to force his weary limbs forward. He had the Machinite course from when the 6 nightmares were defeated. And now he also had the sword he took from Aurum. Using the facilities that were still present in the Machinite headquarters, he analyzed the artifacts with a feverish desperation. This world possessed a mystical power, similar to that of the Well Legacies. And if anything had a clue regarding its specifics, it would be the Machinites. They might even have a way to bring it back. Although he was unable to glean a way to resurrect Ib, he learned a great deal about a number of facilities from the ancient civilization. Ningirsu left the Machinite headquarters and set off to each one of them with the lifeless body of his sister in tow. Many of the facilities he visited had already ceased to work, and the ones that barely did provided little to no useful information. However, Ningirsu never gave up. There must be a way he could save Ib somehow. With that unwavering belief in his heart, he resumed his grueling journey. And finally, at long last, he discovered an ancient facility that was still in working condition. Okay, and the last part of the story for today. After countless weary roads walked, Ningirsu had gone through more information than any average man would in his life. He had thoroughly inspected the Machinite cores and several ancient facilities. With what he had gathered, including files on the key and technologies thought to be long lost, he had finally unlocked the secrets hidden within the planet. And the truths of the world that had been shrouded in mystery, Ningirsu trembled with joy. He could revive his sister now! With his newfound certainty, Ningirsu set about creating a vessel that could house Ib's soul using the ancient technologies. However, this task was to be the most difficult yet. Trial after trial resulted in countless failures and their byproducts. And as the days ticked by, he had amassed enough vessels to create his own army. But at last, his efforts paid off. He had finally created a mechanical doll that would work. By synchronizing the doll with the body of his dead sister, he also succeeded in reinitializing the functions of one of the twin swords vital to his plan. So much time had been poured into his endeavor, but at least there was something to show for it. A strange sense of elation began to bubble within Ningirsu. His sister had given her life for his world, for this world. Now it was time for him to create a new world for her. Now that Ningirsu had the mechanical doll's powers, the second step of the plan to build a castrated Babel could finally begin. Alright. So, yeah, that was an episode filled with lots of stories, so I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then please like and subscribe. Also, check out the other playthroughs on my channel if you want to watch more. In the description you'll find a link to Twitch where you can watch me stream live, and also 3 links to Stropple where you can vote for the next games I'll play on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and the community streams. So, I hope to see you next time again. Have a great time. Bye bye.